The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marina Sprocki, and I'm the host of Always Another Way podcast. I have a master's in professional counseling, and I'm the IPPY Award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I've written positive divorce advice for the HuffPost, and I'm trained in clinical hypnosis. And this podcast is for out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope and always another way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, it's probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, taste can and do change. And thank you all so much for listening to this podcast for now 102 episodes and for sharing it with people. And one of the reasons I started Always Another Way podcast is because a lot of times we just know what we're taught, what we're brought up with, and what we see, unless we seek other information. And sometimes things don't always work out that way, even though it may work for a lot of people. And in my very, very first podcast, if you listen to it, I talk about different experiences I have where I've done some things where tons of other people have done this, but it was different for me. And another example I'm just going to talk about real quick before I bring on my guest, which continues, what I think is just very important, especially today, is to take charge of your own health. And I'm not saying disregard medical professionals or anything like that, but you know your body the best and you know your body's history the best. And all things are not created equal because you can look up pharmaceutical drugs. And again, I'm not saying they're all bad, but you can look at the list of the 50 worst, like Ally and Olestra and the things, and a whole bunch Bextra that just went down and not good, tons of side effects, bad. So everything is not good, and diet and other changes can play a part in your health way more than you think. And sometimes all you have to do is try it because you know your body better than yourself. So real quickly, I am at the beginning of March, so I'm in menopause. And that's the one thing I want to talk about is that there's so little information out about menopause or what to do in it. I remember I called my doctor and I'm like, I haven't had my period in a while. She's like, if you don't get it in a year, you're in menopause. Okay. And then what do you do? And then I was like, okay, it's been a year. Okay. Come in and get blood work and we'll check. And she's like, okay, do you want hormones? And I'm like, I don't know. Why would I take those? For your symptoms? I'm like, what symptoms do I have? So you see how that's just I could have just said yes and not ask questions. And then what would I be on and for what? Which then leads me to this point during this COVID, and I was on a new drug, I gained 15 pounds really quickly, which made my clothes not fit. And it's not that I was in a drive to lose weight, I just want to fit my clothes. And I was doing what I thought was right. I was lowering my calories, I was way upping my cardio, and nothing moved. So I was like, oh my God, this is not going to work for me. Googled, what to do for menopause weight gain, found something about intermittent fasting, dove into some hardcore research. The book, The Obesity Code by, let's see, his name is Jason. Let me look at my Audible real quick because I'm listening to it. Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung. OMG, full of information. Anyways, so I tried it, followed this, have found in just 8 days amazing changes in my own body because I decided to do some research for myself. And I don't mean just go to Dr. Google. You can go to Google Scholar and find some more interesting things. But also, just like dietary changes, you can eliminate dairy yourself without asking anybody and without looking up anything. But that being said, I'm going to bring on my guest who took charge of her health, and she's going to tell you her story, which is super exciting and inspiring. Amy Cattaneo? Cattaneo. I asked her that before, and then I forgot quickly. Was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. Amy had a typical New York City childhood. After falling in love with accounting in high school, she decided to get her MBA in accounting. She went to work for one of the big four accounting firms right after graduating, and life was good. Until she noticed that she was always getting sick, she was stressed out of her mind, and was simply miserable despite having a great life on paper. So she decided to change everything about what she was doing. She became a raw vegan, she started exercising regularly, and devoured information on health. Slowly but surely, she started to feel better, her skin cleared up, and she noticed she wasn't getting sick anymore. This change also led Amy to realize her true passion was helping people. She and her husband eventually went to own a personal health training studio in Allen, Texas, which they've owned and operated for over 10 years now. She's a certified personal trainer, certified precision nutrition coach, certified Robbins Medanes life coach, and a certified essential oil coach. She also has a podcast too. She is just a badass. So Amy helps people become healthier and happier through the power of essential oils and runs the nutrition department at her training studio. So welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I just love when people just have found transitions, what works for them, and like a lot of people that I know, what I think is just so beautiful is when, and maybe you can tell me this is true for you, when you struggle, it sucks.
Yes, it does.
It's a struggle. I mean, it really does. But when you find something, like I just want to tell people and be like, you don't have to struggle.
Right.
Yeah. So let's kind of go back to that. Like, okay, you're like, you got the perfect on paper life. You're an MBA, you're smart, you're doing all this, you got like the dream job.
Yeah, it was.
Take us there.
I just, I grew up in the Bronx, as you mentioned, and my parents worked really hard to send me to private school, and then I went on to college, and I got a scholarship. So I was just, following all the steps we're supposed to take when we're growing up. And I got a job, and I was an accountant, and I actually really loved it. I still like doing that. I still love spreadsheets. I know that sounds crazy, but I still do. But
People do.
I know. But I just noticed I was working crazy hours. It was in New York, so that's just the norm to just work like 80-hour
I lived in New York
weeks.
City. It's like, who can work the longest?
Right. It's just like,
wins.
You just do that. And the money was great, I'm not gonna lie, but I was just sick all the time. I got the flu, my skin was horrible. I struggled with acne my whole life. I had bad back knee. I know that's kind of like TMI, but I just did.
It's a thing.
And my face was just bad, and people were like, try this, try these, all these potions. I tried Proactive, I tried all these things. I tried this medication that I couldn't go out in the sun, or it weakened your immune system. Like I was trying everything under the sun, and
Did you start going to medical doctors and like, hey, help me?
I was going to dermatologist after dermatologist. I was going to doctor after doctor, just like, why am I sick all the time? And I was thin. So when people see somebody that's thin, you're healthy.
Yeah.
Right. You automatically are. Oh, what are you talking about? You're thin. You're a size 4. Like, what are you complaining about? But I was like, I'm sick all the time. So my husband was actually in sales, and he was selling advertisements to a chiropractor, and he ended up just talking to the guy, and I ended up hurting my shoulder. So he was like, hey, go to this guy. And I remember sitting in his lobby, and he had Food Inc. on. That's a very popular documentary, and it was the first time I've even heard of that, like seeing it, and I was just like, oh my God. I was like, what?
Information we were not taught.
Right. I was just the typical, like, eat whatever. Like, I had a corporate card, so I was just eating and drinking whatever I wanted. And I was just like, So he started talking to me, and he did this program where you start off with the fast. It's obviously with the doctor, like he helps you through it. Started on a 5-day fast. I told my husband, we're doing this.
So you were motivated and ready.
I was motivated because I was so sick.
Yeah.
And this was an answer, because I wasn't getting answers anywhere else. Doctors were saying, oh, you just, you're working too much. That's how you're getting sick. Or it's just normal to get sick a couple of times a year. And I'm like, but I'm out of commission for like a week. Like, that's not normal.
Right.
And my skin.
And good for you for like sticking up for yourself. Because
Right.
sometimes I know people, like if a doctor tells you something, you'd be like, oh, okay, I guess it's normal. I'll just get sick.
Right. Well, I did do that for a while, but you get to a point, hopefully most of us get to a point where it's just like, is that really true?
Yeah.
Is this it? Like, am I just supposed to work a million hours, be sick all the time, but it's okay because I'm thin and I have money?
Yeah.
Yay.
Right?
No, it didn't make sense. So I started with that, and he proposed that we go raw vegan, and that was the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if you were just like, oh yeah, sure.
No.
Because you were eating like, I know New York City good food.
No, I'm Puerto Rican, grew up eating my mom's rice and beans and, pork and just everything under the sun. Fast food was like a staple in my life. Like, college, I went to school in New York City. I mean, you're just eating out wherever you can. So to hear that, I didn't even know what the words meant. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, so I obviously started researching, and he gave us book after book, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right. Because you don't know until you try.
Right. Because right now, this sucks. So I'm just going to try it. So we did it, and we stayed raw vegan for about 4 years, and it transformed my health. My skin cleared up. My parents were all worried that I was going to lose more weight because I was already thin, but my weight just regulated. I didn't like become like skeletal or anything. I never got sick.
And when did you start noticing this? So you started it, was there ever a point where you're like, I don't know about this? Or how hard was it to like,
it was
go from like,
Oh,
and I'm not saying raw vegan isn't delicious, but like the salt, sugar, fat,
I know,
scientific combo.
It was definitely challenging. So that was the first fast I've ever done. I've since done like 1 million, but the thought of like not eating for 5 days, it was a water fast where you had like Udo's oil and green powder and all that stuff. So I was still getting nutrients, but I miss chewing. I know that's.
And was there any time where you're just like, screw this?
The first day I had a little bit of soup just because I just couldn't wrap my brain around not eating.
Yeah.
And then once I got over that, and it was okay, like I just stayed home and I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna kind of relax. After that was fine. And then I'm thankful that I was able to do this in New York because they do have a lot of raw vegan restaurants. They do have a lot of juice bars and places that you can still socialize and go out because it's nice to just go out and eat. So it was easier in that regard. But it was just something that I started seeing immediately after that fast, like after like day 3 or 4. I just had so much energy, and my skin cleared up already from just those couple of days.
So then you're just like, okay, I'm seeing it.
So when you see that immediate, unfortunately, it's when we need that response that, you need to see something to keep going.
Yeah. I know, I do.
I know, it's not always going to happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you see that, you're like, what else can I get from this? So I just kept going, and thankfully my husband was also doing it with me, so we had that support system, and it just like catapulted our health career. Like he's really into researching, has always been, and he just went into a deep dive into nutrition, and we just started learning all these things about food that we had no idea, how food is so healing and what it can do for your body. And now it sounds like 10 years later, I'm like, of course it is. But at the time, I was like, McDonald's is great.
Right? Because it tastes good.
It's amazing. So it was transformative. Mm-hmm. And we still use all that today. I'm not raw vegan anymore, but I still I eat super high vegetarian, and I still have a lot of whole foods. And when I do eat meat, it's still like with the highest quality that I can get. So I've taken a lot of things that I've learned and kind of morphed them with all the things that we've accumulated over the years, just to like what works for me. So.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so you found that, you've got that going on, and then now kind of what comes next for that? You're just raw vegan in and out, living the life, feeling good.
What happened was, and I don't know how to explain this, but as I started cleaning up my body, my mind started getting clearer. And I realized that although I loved the work, I didn't love that my work wasn't helping. Like I found that I loved teaching. I started teaching the tax software. I started teaching classes on that, and I liked helping people. I had always tutored people. And I was like, that was my passion. And of course, as an accountant, you're not giving back in a way. So, and my husband was on a similar journey, and we actually ended up moving to Texas. My parents moved here for my mom's job, and we just both quit our jobs. We quit our high-paying jobs, and we're just like, we're gonna do this. And
so you hatched a little plan before, or just kind of like, we want to just do something different? Was it that high level, or were you more focused in on what different?
It was a little bit of, we kind of had a plan, and then we threw it out the window. So we moved here pretty quickly. My family lives here, so that was a pretty easy decision. And the plan was my husband was going to be a personal trainer while I stayed an accountant, so we can have a steady stream of income. And I was gonna, until he got that going, then I can pursue whatever I wanted to do, because
you need money for bills, right?
You need money, like you got to eat.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. I had a job for a month here as an accountant, and this is the only job I have ever done this. I just walked out. I couldn't. It was like killing my soul. Mm-hmm. And my husband.
I mean, so good that you really listened to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like, I wonder if too, like, did you ever think that like, okay, I'm here. This is just what I've got to do. Like
Right.
any mindset like that before that, we're just like, okay, it's an accountant. I'm good at it. I got an MBA. It makes money.
That's
You know?
it was like a path, like that's
But it
what
doesn't bring me the personal joy, but money.
wasn't. It was like I'm always been this like happy-go-lucky person, and I just found myself just miserable. And I was like, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. And we did. I mean, it was a struggle for a while. We were like, okay, we can't, we need to go to my parents' house to eat because we don't have money. But we figured it out. And I had several jobs just trying to figure out. I became a pre-K teacher and was a tutor. And then my husband was a personal trainer, and he ended up working at this place that we eventually went on to own.
Okay.
The owner knew that we were business minded and went to business school, and he was like, hey, do you guys want to buy this? And we were like, sure.
So he's doing well at personal training,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
you're just still in these jobs, not super happy.
I was happy because I was teaching, and that's what I love helping. I love helping somebody get from A to B in whatever regard that is. So every job I've had since that accountant job has been helping somebody get from A to B. So when I was a pre-K teacher, I was helping a child learn to read. I've done tutoring. I was helping a child with whatever they've done. I've done, like, I started training. It's helping somebody.
So you're getting more into your niche here.
Right,
Of like,
right. So it's always getting somebody from point A to point B. So once we were like, well, you get into a groove. Once you start saying yes and trying over and over, it just becomes so much easier.
Nice.
People ask us now, like, how can you just jump in and do something? I'm like,
How can you just jump in and do something?
it gets easier. The first
So did you just like, yes, we're just going to try it because we're
Why
just
not?
going to try it. Why not?
Yeah, because that's how we did. We were scared when we went raw vegan. We were scared when we moved to Texas. We were scared, but you just do it anyway, and
Yeah.
you figure it out. And once you do it over and over again, you're like, oh, it's not so bad. It's still a little scary, but you still do it, and you see that it comes out on the other. You come out on the other side, and you're fine. So we ended up buying the studio, and we've had it for 10 years. And I learned that I absolutely love personal training people. I love nutrition coaching because it's the same thing. It's bringing somebody from point A to point B. And I found that people assume that I've always ate healthy. And I'm like, trust me, no. Like, trust me. I have a favorite meal that I used to get at every fast food place. Like, that's not always how I've been. So I can relate to people when they're like, oh, I'm really craving this. And I'm like, I got you. I understand. And I can help you figure out how to eat something that tastes similar, but is elevated, doesn't have all that stuff that we don't want in food anymore. So
Nice.
yeah, it's been amazing.
And so since then, you've just been like, just floating right on. And was there any point, like, even during that 10 years, where you're just like, questioned it, or was it just like, all on auto from then?
Oh no, we've questioned ourselves all the time. I think you're not taking enough like chances if you're not questioning it. It's always been a question, like, is this the right thing? Especially when we bought a gym, like we just buys a gym. But we did it, and it's always been.
And was it hard to ramp up from there? Like, or did it seem to flow and like?
We had some bumps in the road. So when we bought it was a franchise. And we decided that it was just one-on-one training. And we didn't want to do that because, as you could probably tell, my husband and I like to just change things. We were like, we need to do something that's going to help the more people. So we ended up wanting to do group classes, but the franchise said you can't do group classes. And we're just like, we're going to do them anyway because it's just one-on-one.
And I don't know about franchise stuff. Can you just like do what you want to do, or do you have to like cut franchise ties, or how's that work?
It's kind of, well, we didn't really know, like we're young and stupid, I'm going to be honest. We were just like, we're going to do it anyway because we know better, right? And we ended up doing amazing with it. It ended up being that it was the best move for our business. And the franchise loved what we were doing. So they asked us.
Because you're making money.
Because we're making money.
Okay. Funny how that money.
Yeah, funny how that works. Well, it was also because, not everybody can afford one-on-ones forever. So you eventually leave. They eventually lose them.
It's expensive.
It is expensive. So if you have another option, a little cheaper option that they can stay, they already know their body now, they can be in a group class, they'll stay longer, right? It made
And is
sense
that what
to
you
us.
guys saw in there? Is what
Yeah.
the need for that?
Yes, we definitely saw a need because we were tracking why people were leaving. And it was, hey, I already know what I'm doing. I don't need the one-on-one attention anymore. Or, I can't afford this anymore. I really wish you guys had a cheaper option. So we're like, why don't we have a cheaper option?
Right, yeah.
So we ended up.
Makes sense.
Right. Totally makes sense when you say it now, right? Right.
And do you know what I just thought? Like in a microcosm of kind of what we're talking about is one person just wanting to do it one way, like this works,
Right.
and you're like, nah, and you go buck them
Right.
and try it just like you can do with your own health, and like,
Yep.
wow, something else works too, is not just one way.
Totally. Absolutely. Like we still do one-on-ones. It's still not like we wanted to get rid of it. It's just nice to give people that option.
More.
Yeah. So we ended up, the franchise was like, well, we love what we're doing. Can you show us? And that violated the franchise agreement. So we ended up getting out.
Oh,
of that.
cool.
Yeah.
So do you just like, you could still own the thing, you're just like, don't get to call it.
Yeah, we changed names, we changed everything, and now we're 100%, it's what we want to do. Because before, we were under franchise, like we had to do
Yeah.
certain things, you had to have certain colors, you had to, and now it's our own show, so we can do whatever we want, which is nice. And we do, so.
Very
yeah.
good. And so, and what else? Like, I'm going to ask it, my thing went out. Gonna enter my password again. Like, so what, so for people like kind of like struggling right now with things, like if somebody's just like, in any realm, like, hey, I've had all this stuff going on.
Right.
I've listened to doctors, I've done things. What would you say to somebody who's in a struggle stuck mode before they're in that, like, where you're just like, I'll just try anything.
Right.
But you're not at the try anything. You're just at the, this isn't working, but that seems too hard over there.
Right.
I
would just say to take it in piecemeal. Like a lot of times we jump just because of society and the culture we grew up in, we just jump into what the doctors say and we don't question it. Like you were saying that you started asking your doctor the question about your hormones and stuff. Just start looking into the other things. Like just start looking. Like a lot of times clients will come in and they don't really believe that changing their diet is going to change their mindset or their mood. And we're like, try it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Right? You eat an extra couple of salads. I mean, if you're less angry from that, like, so just take it pieces. People think that they have to jump right in and do everything. You don't have to go over a vegan. I understand that was a crazy thing to do. And I don't recommend that for most people.
Yeah.
I'm more just look at your habits, look at your daily habits and where you want to be. And then where you want where you are right now, and are those habits in line with where you want to go? And just see what habits you can change. And just one, we usually start people off on 1 or 2 habits because everybody's so stressed, everybody's so busy. And if I'm like, you have to change this, you have to change this, you have to change this, you're like, I'm not going to change anything. So just one little thing. And that one little thing, just do it until it becomes your norm. And then you're going to look back and you're like, I can't even remember a time when I wasn't doing that. And then go on to the next thing. And then before you know it, you're somebody that has all these amazing habits and you don't even remember really implementing them because you did it so slowly and it just kind of integrated into your life.
Yeah. And so this is like, it's a weird what if, but could you imagine now, so you're where you are now, what if you just had accepted that doctor's like, okay, you just get sick a couple times a year. Do you think you would be where you are now eventually, or do you think you would be just someplace different if you had just been like, okay, I guess this is just what we're resolved to do?
I don't think I would be. I think I would still be an accountant. I think changing my diet, changing my mindset of what I was consuming. I started consuming like more health documentaries and just.
Okay, let's talk about that too. Okay, let's segue into that. Let's talk about consumption of. Consumption is not just food.
Oh,
what else is? Talk about what consumption means for you.
Consumption is everything. Like it's the podcasts I listen to, the audio books, the books that I'm reading, like just the fiction books or the nonfiction books, or just the TV. My husband and I decided, and this again crazy, when we went raw vegan, we got rid of cable. And we were just used to be in front of the TV, which is like, what are we going to watch? What show are we going to watch? What show are we going to binge? And we got rid of it. And we started going outside more. So totally, to go back to your original question, if I hadn't become raw vegan, I don't think I would have started consuming those things, because I didn't even know that world existed until I had to figure out like what to eat, because nobody was telling me what to eat, and I had to figure it out. You start learning about all these people like David Wolfe and all these amazing people that are in the health industry, and you know, they recommend a book, so you go down that rabbit hole, and then it's just this whole thing. So it just becomes this big thing of consumption, and that's something I totally talk about with people when they come in and they're like, well, I'm stressed, you know, I need to work out, I need to do this. I'm like, what are you consuming? Like, what are you listening to? Did you binge Netflix? You know,
Did you binge the news?
Did you binge the news? I know. Just having a news detox can do wonders for you.
Oh yeah, I've had one for years.
Yeah, right. Same. Like, if it's anything important, somebody's gonna talk about it on Facebook or Instagram.
That's what I mean too. If there's a bomb coming, somebody will text me.
Somebody will. I'll find it out. It's just all negative.
Because you know where to vote, and you can read
Right.
stuff without
Right.
hearing the emotion.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I'm all about just consuming good stuff, like just making sure, and again, start small. I'm not saying you have to cut off your cable, you have to stop binging. Just find a podcast like this one that you love listening to, and do that once a week, and then maybe it becomes every other day or something like that, and you'll start noticing that your other choices in life become different as well, because you're getting different downloads to your brain.
That's for sure, because I mean, that really is the truth, is like, you know, you are what you always think. If you're just always listening to this, and we're being caught in a time with a person where all they're talking about is like politics. I was like, we can't change this.
Right.
And so we're just like, I'm just getting mad.
Right.
With no solution.
Right. And it doesn't go anywhere. You're like on a hamster wheel. So it goes for anything. It goes for food, it goes for fitness, it goes for consumption of just media.
So let's talk about, we're just talking about any oils. And I know sometimes people get all squirrely, like essential oils cure. We're not saying essential oils cure cancer.
Never said that.
But just like there's scholarly research on smells, scents, oils, things. It's not just a made up foo-foo.
Yep.
But how did that like become a part of so you're feeling healthier,
Yes.
watching your consumption? Tell us about adding that in.
So how I added that in is, well, owning a business can be very stressful, and I found myself not following all the advice that I was doling out, because I was running a business and I was super busy. So I decided to give myself a break, and I went to a retreat. It's the Raw Food Institute with Lisa Wilson in Connecticut, and I just Googled it, and I was like, that sounds great. It's a week of, you know, raw vegan food, and there's also learning. It's 7 days.
Educational.
Yeah, it's educational, which is great. Like, you're just learning all sorts of things. So I was like, perfect. So I went to that, and I have arthritis in my lower back. From some injury. I was a dancer when I was younger. And my back was hurting from sitting all day. And somebody leaned over and was like, hey, try this. It was Deep Blue. It was one of the oils. And I was like, you know, you're at this thing. You're like, sure. I mean, it's hurting.
Can't hurt.
It can't hurt. Alrighty. So she gives me 2 drops of this thing, and I rubbed this on my back, and I was like, oh my gosh. In like 20 minutes, I was like, what did you just give me? I was like, I need to learn more about that. And she ended up having a class. Well, it was somebody else that gave it to me, but Lisa ended up having a class on essential oils. And I just was like enamored with them. Like, 'cause I had heard of them. We see them in the stores, but I never really got into it. And after that, because I experienced such a profound change with it, I started really getting into it. And it started off just for me. I just wanted it to use it for myself. But because I was doing nutrition coaching, I started hearing people say things, and I was like, well, try this. And it ended up kind of blowing up on its own. So I have a whole separate business with that as well. And it's just nice to be able to have different things to offer people, you know. So if somebody comes to me and they need nutrition coaching, I can do that. If they need training, I can do that. If they want to go into the whole essential oil things, I can do that. So that's how I kind of fell into it, and I've been doing it for almost 3 years. So
Sweet. Okay, well then let's go into like what you're doing now. So tell us the name of your place, how people can come in, and then we'll squeal into your podcast and all the things you talk about there too that are all health and goodness related.
So my husband and I own Infinity Personal Training. It's in Allen. It's on Allen Drive and 75. And we've been there for 10 years. We moved. We just got a new building, and we're opening back up on Monday because we've been closed because of the whole COVID situation. So we're super excited about that. Right now, we still do one-on-ones. We do small group, which is 3 to 4 people. Typically, we do large group, which is 10, but because of the situation, we're scaling that back. We also do genetic testing. We do nutrition coaching. I'm not a nutrition coach right now, but I am the head of the department. So we have 2 amazing nutrition coaches that I've trained and helped get them up to speed on how we like to do it, because we do very much habit-based instead of like, oh, we're going to make you lose weight in like 30 days kind of thing. It's more, let's do this for a lifetime so that you eventually don't need us.
Because that's really what's true, is like you can do something for a minute, but then if it's not a lifestyle change, you know, I mean, I'll quit smoking for 2 weeks, but then
Yeah.
doesn't do anything.
We can get you into that dress in a month, but what about after that, you know? So we do that. And with essential oils, I have a private Facebook group that I educate people on every single day. And I have a podcast called the Happy Health Podcast. And it's on iTunes and all the other major podcast platforms. So.
And what all do you talk about on that? What ranges of topics can people find there?
I found that my true passion and encompasses everything I do, which is helping people become happier. And I think happiness is a skill that you can work on. It's not just something that you're like, poof, you have it. It's just like everything else. You got to work on it. And it's not something that you're going to be every single day. You know, like I'm not 100% perfect with my diet or my nutrition or my fitness, but I work on it. And I think happiness is the same thing. So I talk about that, like just mindset stuff. I talk about nutrition. I talk about fitness. It's just everything that encompasses a happiness and health in your lifestyle.
Right, because that is so true. I mean, mindset really, really matters. And I just like really what you said, because nobody's ever stuck in one state. You're not happy forever. You're not this forever. But sometimes I think we think, and even like myself is like, oh, I'm not happy, this is not working, but it's not like, it's just something that you turn on and off. It is something to truly continually work on. And then, and I found, at least for myself, and maybe you too, is when I start to notice more and slow down, like, was that thought really true and real?
Yes, exactly.
Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
It totally makes a big difference. But when you have to start noticing those things, and we're not taught to work on it, right? We're taught to work on everything else, work on our career and work on all these things, but you're not taught to work on your feelings and your well-being and just how you feel on a day-to-day basis. And that's why so many people are stressed and miserable, because they feel like, oh, this is life. I'm an adult. I'm supposed to be miserable and just kind of go through the motions. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. And that really is like a widespread weird rumor that like, and I'm not going to blame the older peeps, but like, you know, like it's just like, oh, you just got to tough, and not that things aren't tough or struggle, and not that you didn't, but just more like it's just got to suck and be tough, and like you're just got to chalk it up.
Right. I mean, there's no joy or happiness, or if you do have it, it's like here and there. I talk about like, how do you bring yourself so that you are doing things on a day-to-day basis that make you happy and bring yourself joy. And of course, there's going to be moments that you're upset and you're pissed off, but how do you bring yourself back from that? How do you not stay there, right? So, because you don't have to stay there. And a lot of times we're taught just to stay in that state, and then you don't know how to get yourself back out.
Yeah. What do you do when you get into like, if somebody just really like, you know?
I kind of go deeper into it. You know what I mean? I feel like we shouldn't be that way, and then but we do. So we feel bad about there, and we kind of ping pong, and we don't let ourselves actually feel the emotion. If I'm pissed off, I'm pissed off. Right? Just let yourself be there. Just let it sit, and then you once you get that emotion out, then you can go to a more logical place. Okay, whatever pissed me off, what are the solutions? What can I do? But we don't actually address the emotions, and it's not addressed, so that when we try to be logical, we're still going with our emotions because we didn't let ourselves feel it.
That's right.
Right. So now we're making logic-based decisions in an emotional state, and it doesn't make sense. And then you start making mistakes and you start going down a spiral. But if you just let yourself feel it, and just like, I'm gonna be pissed off. Like if I get pissed off of my husband, I tell him I'm pissed off. He's like, why? Because you pissed me off. Like,
I need some time.
I'm okay. It's okay for me to feel that. It's
Yeah.
okay, And then I can go, okay, I'm good now. Here's what this is what really upset me. This is the communication or whatever. And then you can go, and then you're fine from there. You can go back to a logical place.
I think that's just awesome because really you do that's the only way to get through emotions is to go through them for real.
We think we have to hide, and then you have to hide those emotions. You can't be.
And
pissed
especially as
off.
a woman, you're told oh, don't be a good little girl.
Right.
Don't get mad.
Oh, don't get me. I'm listening.
Good girls don't get mad.
I'm listening to the best audiobook, Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's on my list.
Oh, it's so good. She's all about just being letting your wild come out. She has a story right in the beginning about how a cheetah was tamed and it's never been in the wild, but it still felt the wild inside her. And just how we as women are told, like you said, to just be quiet, just be.
Nobody likes an angry woman.
If you're angry, then you're considered a bee. You just can't. And it's just no, I'm allowed to feel all the emotions.
A range of emotions.
Right. And it's okay, and people will see you for who you are. I've been pissed at people. I've yelled, and I've done all the things, but nobody sees me as that. They see me as happy Amy. That's what they see because I come back to it and they know when I'm feeling that emotion, I'm feeling that emotion. And it's because something happened. Right?
Which is how things happen. That's how emotions work.
And it sounds so duh, but it's not how we operate. And it's crazy. So.
And then, okay, so getting to sort of close-ish to the end. So this is the other thing I asked on the last one, but I heard it from a Tim Ferriss podcast. Yeah. So stealing it because it was good. But so that people always ask, where do you see yourself in 10 years? But the different one that he says is, so if you, because if you are 50, you look so good. I'm assuming you're not. But what would your 50-year-old self say to you now?
Oof, what would my 50-year-olds say to me now? I would say keep going, that you're on the path, you're gonna fall down. You fell down a couple of times and you got some scrapes, but just continue listening to your heart, continue listening to your passion, and it will get you to where we are now. So
awesome. I totally love that. And is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you would like to
I think we got it all.
shout out there?
I think it's just listen to yourself and question everything. I loved how you started that. That's one of the biggest things I tell people, especially I get a lot of questions with essential oils. They're do they really work? I'm just try it. The worst that can happen is nothing.
Yeah, and that's, okay, right there, just what you said. I think that's with anything. Unless it's super dangerous, you know what I mean? Don't let yourself on fire and see what happens. But you could quit dairy and see what happens. You might feel better, you may not.
Right.
You'll know.
And then
you
you'll
could try
know.
this oil, it may work, it may not.
Exactly.
You never know.
Exactly.
Try it.
Try it. That's all I'm saying. Just try it. Try it or I tell people this a lot. I'm prove it wrong, right? If you have that belief about something, if you think, essential oils don't work or nutrition can't change whatever, do a 30-day something related to that topic and prove the person wrong.
There you go.
Right?
And really do it.
And then you might
say you did it.
You might find that you prove yourself wrong, which is a great thing. So
For sure. And so where can everybody find you? And I'll put this in the show notes too.
So I am on Instagram as Happy Amy Cattaneo.
Aw, love that.
And then my podcast, as I mentioned, is Happy Health with Amy Cattaneo. And I'm also on Facebook as Amy Cattaneo.
Awesome. Well, thank you just so much for being on. And I mean, just your happy smile, really it's super contagious. And and we're all, and especially in the COVID times of and uncertainty brings everybody just down a little bit, but there's so much that you can have control over without any resources is your mindset.
Exactly.
Without any money, you are in complete control of your mindset.
Absolutely.
And happiness is an inside job.
Yes, it is. Yes. I love that. I'm going to get that one.
I think I stole that from somewhere else, too.
That's all right.
I hear things, and I'm that sounds great.
That sounds amazing. I'm totally stealing that.
So from someone, but true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for all of you listening, that is the truth because you know that there is always another way.